All right, Greg, we should launch.
All right, well, let's kick it off, everybody. Well, I just want to say thank you and welcome to all the attendees, and thank you to the panelists. This is our second Colorado Chefs Association webinar, Cooking and Serving Amid COVID-19, the big and the small. Panelists, we've got Chef Trevor, Chef Walt, Rebecca, Chef Pierson, Chef Mike. You guys are going to do a quick introduction in a quick second. This is an interactive webinar, so please, if you would like to take yourself off mute, it's in the bottom left of your screen. You can always type questions or comments in the chat box. We'll be monitoring that throughout. It's important during coronavirus, the global pandemic, taking our toll on our industry, and to share best practices. I mean, this webinar is coming from the heart of all of the presenters and all the people that put in a lot of work with the videos, and we want to share our best practices and what we found with our network of people. How can we help each other and our industry and our fellow cohorts in our business be successful for the long run? So let's let the panelists introduce themselves. Trevor, I'll turn it back over to you, and once again, thank you for being here, everybody.
It's a pleasure to be here again, and you know, this whole conversation started with things about Control Point going to Colorado, and those things are still in conversation, but with everything coming forward, we do what we do on a regular basis. We shift very quickly, and we have plans in place and procedures in place so that when these things do arise, we can act and help those. You know, when we talk about helping our communities, and we're also talking about the F&B community as a whole. It's not just Las Vegas or just Denver. You know, we want to have an impact with everyone. So now I'm going to turn it over to Pierson. Chef Pierson, thank you for being with us, and thank you all from the American Culinary Federation for doing this, and also for Rebecca from helping us do all the videos.
No, thanks, Trevor. Excited to be here on the second one. Pierson Shields, the exec sous chef at the Hyatt Regency Denver. Just looking forward to answering any questions I can and kind of coming to a collective whole on how we can accomplish, you know, being successful moving forward. So thank you again for having me.
It's a pleasure. And we have some footage to show for each of the chef, and we're going to let Chef Briski get involved here and give an introduction to himself or for everyone.
Yes, hi, thank you, Trevor. I'm Chef Mike Briski. I work for a corporation called NCAR. That's the National Center for Atmospheric Research. We're up in Boulder. We have 3 locations up there, and I'm very honored to be on this panel this afternoon to answer any questions I can.
Awesome. And we have the usual mouse situation. Amy, my business partner, is here with us, and I'm really excited for that. She could tell you how much luck I have with technology lately. Anyways, but we got another poll launched just to get everybody to give us an idea as who is with us today. and where everyone is at, you know, what's on their mind mentally. And we encourage you, as Greg was saying, to be interactive, put your questions in there. And I took notes this morning from all the registrants to see what they had in place, and we'll definitely start going over those. But before we do that, I wanted to give a perspective of what we're doing and why we're doing it. We have the intention of putting out these resources or using the resources that are already published to give insight on that. But we're encouraging all the operators and the team members to put their own thoughts into this and do what makes sense for their operation. Because if we have somebody to come in to say, you should be doing it this way, do they really understand the way that we operate or what is most cost effective? And the why behind of all this is really to generate more value and show you the value of food safety and what we're doing. So this is very, very exciting. And we'll jump in. You know, I'm managing through the chat window as well. So to answer questions, we'll try to answer them as fast as possible, but get them in sooner, and we'll go from there. Now, in all of this, take away three things out of this. Three things as far as where you are in when you get stuck. Revert back to the very beginning, the basics, the foundation. Go find your team and connect with them to see how they can help you get through this, or connect with your other colleagues. But go back and just say, I'm stuck here. And then your request. We're sharing not only what you all are requesting to gain out of this, but also what guests are sharing with us. And the value, the very important thing of the culture and the morale in these establishments. You know, this is a very tough time. There's no doubt about that. But when we set these things up and we have a very positive and robust food safety culture, we generally have a higher morale because people are not bummed about other things. And we also are very quick on our feet. You know, we as culinary individuals have to be, but some of us come from the world of food manufacturing too. So to give you an idea who we have with us, we have people that want internships. So if any of you are looking for team members, you know, put it in the chat window. And we also have people that are serving schools, educational institutions. We have university dining, catering. People are requesting the frequency of changing some of the PPE. I can definitely go into that. There's not one answer that will give you the best answer because there are multiple things that we have to consider in that, lots of variables. We have things to increase our customer base, food safety, and the management team. We touch base on morale, but it's incredibly important. And then any extra precautions. So these are what are generating the questions that we're going to present to the chefs, and they're going to answer for us. We also have things for hygiene as well as hospitality. Not hostility. It is about hospitality. And if there's any sort of equipment or things that we should be doing. And also if there's any assistance from the food manufacturers. So we're thrilled for all of this. And thank you all for being so active in the polls for us. You know, the first poll, we had asked about who was here. We know that there are people from universities, from educational institutions, from restaurants, from hotels. We even have regulators that had signed up. And I'm thrilled for this because, you know, this is very challenging, but regulators are people too. And regardless of what's going on, we need to make sure that we are respectful of the people that come into our businesses too. And on that, I'm not sure if our poll results are being shared with everybody, but this is an idea of who does what from the audience. So as far as who's wearing mask and gloves or who's just doing mask without gloves, I'll tell you right now, I don't wear gloves because gloves give me, you know, they can make me go, ooh, I don't know, because I see gloves being worn more often and changed less. Therefore, I see it as a cross-contamination issue. But now we'll get into a little bit of a video with Chef Pierson, and then we're going to put some questions out there specifically for him based on this. Let me close out this poll.
I feel like we prepared as best we could. It's always been my thing, and we run a really lean staff. We run them on purpose. We want everyone to get their 40 hours, and everyone should get a little bit of overtime if necessary. Over the last couple of years, what we've been trying to do is bring in interns, bring in on-call employees that are just looking for a few hours here and there, aren't mad if they don't get hours. And it's really worked well for us, walking away from temp agencies and using culinary professionals that are just looking to pick up a little slack, kind of a thing. We don't really have any issues. We're already extremely clean. The kitchen does excellent. We have a whole stewarding department. So for us, it'll be business as usual. And kind of just maintaining the building in our base is what we call it, where all the systems are in case an alarm goes off, something like that. We're still talking about how full service is going to look, but the initial open up is going to be a lot of grab and go. Buffets will probably be a lot of prepackaged items. If we do get a group, depending on if we're allowed to have 10, 100, 1,000 people in a ballroom, right now the government's kind of dictating what we can do. And as they set the guidelines, we adapt to them. On the other flip side, myself and 2 other sous chefs started a little side business of prepared meals. We teamed up with the ACF. We teamed up with Food Maven, Rocker Spirits, Proud Souls, Elevation Food Reps of the Rockies. Elevation Food Reps of the Rockies were here now. They actually donated their commercial kitchen to us. So we've been using it for the last 6 weeks. We changed the menus weekly. We started off just selling on Wednesdays, and now we're Wednesdays and Fridays because Rocker Spirits wanted to get involved. And all the proceeds over, after the break-even point, we're tallying up, and we're going to donate those to the ACF, hopefully within the next couple of weeks for the culinary students. It's been super successful. It started off with 6 people one week, and now we're almost at 100 people a week that are buying meals from us.
Oh, that was awesome. Chef Pierson, thank you for that. I just want to ask you, I know that we recorded this a little bit ago, but are there any updates that you want to share with our attendees?
So as far as hotel opening, we did push it one more time. We're looking to open July 2nd at this point. It's looking very positive. Governor Polis has, been more than accommodating to the hotels through discussions with general managers and other people in the industry. So as of today, we're excited to open on the 2nd.
Very exciting. And tell us about your agility going from 6 meals to 100 meals. That's quite an increase.
It definitely took all 3 of us to get it done. Like I said, we started out with 6 people that were interested. We got involved with Facebook and Instagram, and a lot of favors were called in for friends and people that have larger followings than we did at the time. And it kind of just caught on. And, once people realized we were doing it to stay busy, but also doing it to give back and give to the culinary students, it really started to make a difference. I mean, it all started for us when we had an intern, and she worked with us for a week. And after the first week, she lost her internship. Her school shut down. And, that's just not fair. As a young person, I would have loved someone to help me if I was in this situation. So that was kind of the spark.
Right on. And in this particular situation, we had kind of discussed it the other day, but we actually got a question ahead of the presentation that said, hey, I want to know, do I need to wear a mask? And what's the details on social distancing? Great question to the particular individual that submitted it, but we have to go back and think about, where are we? What state are we asking for? What county or city? And who is the Department of Health in this case? But in that situation, they happen to be in Colorado, and we found the mandate that said, yes, you have to wear a mask. But how are you handling social distancing or just this separation within 6 feet around the kitchen? It's not a very social environment because we're always moving and doing other things.
We found ourselves that with less people and less staff, we're going to separate out the workstations in that respect. The gloves, the mask, of course, everyone will be wearing and changing quite frequently. But as far as the kitchen goes and the kitchen staff, we're just going to spread out a little more. And it's even going to come down to the sous chefs. I think that the sous chef office is more or less going to be broken up. We might remove a couple of computers and things like that just to keep our distance.
Mm-hmm. Very well. And, oh, sorry. There we go. That technology situation went in our favor. But I encourage you all to ask questions based off of, what you were able to see from Pierson. These videos are going to be up. We're going to release everything in a follow-up email. And before we break off, Walt's actually got some pretty exciting news to share with everybody. But Pierson, I want to go back to one of the questions that was submitted through registration. And somebody said, what can food manufacturers do to support the other F&B industries? So what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, for us, what we're going to look at as far as the hotel goes, buying prepackaged items for a food manufacturer, what I would tell them is we'd like to buy smaller quantities. Being able to break cases would be ideal for us because our business levels are going to go down. That we would hate to buy a case of 1,000 of a perishable item and have it expire. That's not going to fit our business model anymore. So if we could have smaller cases, if cases were able to be broken by the reps and they wouldn't be dinged by that or be sitting on product themselves. So cross-utilization, as far as if we break a case, can we go to another hotel and maybe they'll take the other half of the case, but we'll need the reps as well as the distributors to help us out with things like that.
And it sounds like that could be almost somewhat of a commissary between, Hyatt properties or maybe multiple properties if some sort of situation like that took off. But on that cross-utilization, I think, I'm a butcher by trade, but I think about charcuterie, and it doesn't always have to be about meat. I was just telling a chef this in a food safety class. What if we made this about vegetables? What kind of creativity could we have?
I mean, as far as your question to be, were the vegetables pre-packed? Is that what we're saying, or how are you looking at it?
Well, I see it as peeling carrots. Say we have some sort of juice program in one of our properties, and we have peeling carrots, and then we also have the pulp. We could turn that and make it into cookies or crackers or chips. It's not my recipe, nor do I have the recipe, but our clients have done that firsthand, and they've done it very well. And it's environmentally friendly what they're doing. So they're wanting to have a greater impact.
Well, I think so. To go off that, I would say, as far as hotel staff goes, my message to the staff, along with other things when I get to see them, is going to be think like an owner. If you were the owner of the hotel, would you want to throw those scraps away? Would you want to come up with a solution on how to use them? So we really to protect food costs and to protect the fact that we're all going back to work and we want to stay at work, think like an owner and use all available resources you have, and less food waste. Even though we're already good at it, how can we be better? Like you're saying, are we making juice? Are we drying things out and turning it into like a flour or a different material to incorporate into another dish? But really, think like an owner is my push right now.
That's great, and that's a wonderful mentality to have. Now, going back to this kitchen, how did you get this opportunity to use another kitchen for your side project with your team? And were they quite receptive to you asking, or was it more of an offer?
It was more of an offer. Rich O'Brien at Elevation Food Reps he's become a real friend, and we toured his kitchen a few months back, and he always said, come in if you ever need to test anything out, if you ever want to use any of the items that we rep, just let me know. And I texted him one day and kind of explained what we were doing, and he invited me back in. We retoured the kitchen, and he more or less threw the keys in my direction and said, treat it like it's your own. Let's see what this kitchen can do. From his side of it, we're going to test machines as normal chefs would do, respect, but we're hard on things. And from our side of it, it's food safety and sanitation, and we're doing it in a commercial kitchen and not in our personal kitchens, which one would be impossible at this point, and two is totally illegal. So it kind of worked out in our favor on both ends. I think it was a win-win for both parties.
Excellent. You know, we have, this is from Glenn Gary, Glenn Ross, but we have the ABC for control point, always be compliant, whereas the Glenn Gary, Glenn Ross is always be closing. And on that, tell us about if you're, this came through the chat, but I wanted, you know, to share it with other people who are just more so watching the screens themselves. Share with us if you're having any issues getting any PPE or chemicals or anything from any distributors and what you're doing to prevent that.
We're really never had an issue on our end as far as the hotel goes getting things in. We had a slight scare with sanitizer, but it was only running low, and it came right back in. We ended up buying a case from Food Maven instead of our main broadliner, but we never ran out. I would say we definitely ran low, but it was never an issue on my end.
Awesome. Thank you for that. We'll probably jump back and forth, but I'm going to shoot this or start this video, and then Briski, I want to talk chemicals with you because it's my understanding that you are the chemical expert.
Basically, we would go to an all-to-go service. We want to have our salad bar. We want to have our stations. We would have protection gear. We would have or plexiglass or something by our stations. Practice safe social distancing. What we do too at our location, we have a badge system. So if you're an employee there, you get a badge. You can charge food off of that badge too. So no money comes out of your pocket. There's no money transferred. All they do is take their badge and they swipe it. We haven't been working for about 5 weeks. We have changed our whole game plan. 8 of us on our management team. We are actually in gear. We meet 2 times a week. We won't have these big parties for 500-600 people. So we have to get our revenue in different ways. So these are some of the things that we are working on right now at the moment. We do have a plan in place for when we come back. We're doing all takeout. We're doing no salad bar. We're adding sanitation stations in. We'll be wearing masks and gloves, follow all the guidelines, and try to just get back in and salvage with whatever business we can. It's going to be like a one-stop shop. They can order everything. It'll go into the computer. It'll be sent down to each kitchen. We'll set up a staging area between 11 and 2 where they can come and pick up food. We're 100% compostable because we're not going to use silverware. We're not going to use any of our china. It's just going to be all compostable.
Thank you for that, Chef Briski. And give us your updates, and then I want to go back to that chemical question.
Thank you, Trevor. Pierce, thank you. Basically, we have decided with the we're going down to recycling instead of 100% eco-friendly. With the revenue we are generating at all 3 locations, we feel at this time that we need to adjust cost and pricing. So we are going down to recycling instead of 100% eco-friendly. That will probably be changed in the future, but at this point right now, we've decided to stick on that mark.
Right on. Well, thank you for that. Now back to those chemical questions. I guess we'll start with, have you had any challenges with chemicals or any PPE?
No, not at all. Not in the past. We've never had problems getting gloves. We have a very reliable vendors. We're well stocked with gloves. No PPE problems whatsoever. Our dishwashing company keeps us well stocked, sometimes a little bit too well stocked. But we've never had an issue with getting any clots, urgens, anything like that.
Do you ever have to, or feel like you might be able to switch up your chemicals to prevent any biofilms? We don't talk much about it in food service. It's mostly in food manufacturing.
Yes, we are going to go to disinfectants in the kitchen. there's a disinfectant that we are going to be using. Basically, you spray it on, you let it sit for 2 minutes, and then you go over it with your quad. It's not food safe, but we'll have plenty of sanitation involved with this. We plan on wiping down all our stations in a timely manner.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't see an issue with getting any type of detergents, disinfectants, or sanitizers.
Right on. Is there any particular processes that the industry should be practicing for hygiene? Like, well, let's put gloves and mask on the side for a second. Let's talk about actual cleaning, not from a deep cleaning perspective, because we clean properly from the beginning. So therefore we're not going back in to fix something that's wrong through that deep cleaning remark.
Well, my team and I have discussed this actually recently. We are going to implicate a system that we will be disinfecting, sanitizing at certain times of the day, with an emphasis on disinfectant, because in the past we've never really had to use that. We always used a quat sanitizer. So we are going to add in our 3 kitchens, a disinfective system.
Okay. Now, for a kitchen that you have, what are you doing for security, like preventing from anybody just walking in? I get in Vegas, the sales teams can walk in like they own the place. It's kind of scary sometimes because sometimes you don't know who really is behind the scenes, so you have to question them. But what security systems do you have in place?
Well, we have several. Being a government buildings, we have a badge system. So even for certain catering events or anything, there's some locations I can't get in even with my badge. We have a full-time security system, our security company that's up there 24/7. So there's plenty of ways that people just can't walk in. They have to have coded to badge.
All right, so it's almost like entering a base.
Pretty much so. Security's pretty high. Even to use an elevator, you needed to use your badge to get onto the elevator.
That's good. Maybe not too many people can make those buttons gross. But how are you going to be handling family meal?
Family meals, we've added on with the loss of catering revenue. We've decided to do 2 dinners. They can choose from this on our online ordering guide. We will have 2 choices each night that they can choose from for up to 6 to 8 people. What we're going to do with that is they're going to pre-order. We will have that all in packages ready to go with preheating instructions so they can take out. We've added on to our daily schedule. We've added on hours. So instead of closing our cafe at 1:30, we are going to stay till 4. So that'll give us time constraints for these people to come in and pick up their pack.
All right, excellent. And as far as increasing some revenue flow, the question came in as customer base, but in this case, I think we should look at it from revenue flow. What creativity are you testing or practicing?
Well, right now we've decided to go down to, instead of having several different specials each day, we've downsized our menu. They'll be offered our basic grill items, your hamburgers, turkey, chicken salad, tuna salad, egg salad. Plus, there'll be a couple sandwiches each day they can choose from. So we will have that all packaged up for them. They will start coming in at 11 o'clock. We will do 8 people every 15 minutes. So we will have a pickup time for them to come in. Everything will be pre-packaged. They will come in, pick it up, use the badge system, and we'll have it roped off where they're going to exit the cafe.
Excellent. So with that turkey sandwich, can I get a glass of wine? I hear you got a wine program.
No, we don't have a wine program. No wine program.
No
But
pairing
you can
program?
you can get a side of chips. We will also have a station set up that they can grab a cold beverage, a bag of chips, a pre-made homemade cookie, or any kind of snack. So they will revolve around that area also. So they will have excess picking up some a snack or a beverage.
Excellent. Thank you for that. How are you handling the supplier or vendor approval program through this?
Well, our plan is to reduce the numbers of our vendors coming in each week. During a typical year, we could use 3 to 4 different vendors. We have decided to limit the vendors coming in to our kitchens. So instead of having 3, 4 deliveries a week, we're going to downsize it to 1 or 2. And we're working with our distributors right now. Like Pierce said early, we're going to try to get smaller cases. The great thing with NCAR is we have 3 locations. We can shuttle food around. So instead of, if I don't need a full case of something, I can shuttle it down to Mesa Lab or Center Green. So we have the luxury of being able to do that.
Oh, that's excellent. That's something that we did in some of the properties here where we would bring in the bulk of it and then distribute it to whoever requested it. And then we were responsible for the inventory management, but then we reduced food waste. Like there was nothing actually expiring or going out. If there was something that was questionable, then we'd take it to the team and say, how are you going to use this?
Absolutely. And, you know, for years, we've been practicing utilization, eliminating waste. So it's a great way to do that, having 3 locations that we can shuttle food up to each location. So it's a great cost efficient system we have.
Yeah, I like it. I just think about yields and data and I get excited.
Absolutely.
Excellent. Well, Pierson, I have a question for you now. I was curious about, hotel security. I know that Hyatt's got some pretty great policies and procedures, and they're very interactive with the guests to make sure that they're guided the correct direction. But what about security behind the scenes for you?
Security behind the scenes for employees is going to be changing. We'll probably redo an orientation for all the staff and go over all the new policies and procedures. Whether it's when you enter the building being issued a new mask, you'll have gloves at your disposal. We'll have touchless sanitizers. We're going to take temperatures of employees and things like that. So it'll be almost reintroducing the entire staff to the new hotel policies. As far as interactions with guests go, it'll be less touching their things, bags, etc., and more leading them to the destination and showing them to a bell cart. Still offering services because people are paying a premium and we are in the hospitality and want to take care of them. It's just going to be less. It's going to be less of the physical interaction.
Mm-hmm. And tell me about the shift you had to cover for a colleague. Is it possibly security guard?
I worked a few shifts in security. As we were bringing in more management to help with security shifts to kind of oversee the hotel, and it's just more or less so we could get a jump start on what our new policies look like, being in the base and answering doors and things like that, but also getting ready to reopen the hotel was the main reason for all of us being there.
That's incredible. And, compliments and kudos to upper management for putting other people in those positions, because a new set of eyes helps identify opportunities that are upon us. So that's very good. It's something that we practice heavily in food manufacturing. And it's great to see that same thing in the world of hospitality. But to cover some of these particular questions that had shown up a little bit earlier, I'm interested to hear about any suggestions you would give to possibly someone serving students in a school setting. Now, every state is a little bit different, so there's no,
Sure.
this is the answer, but how would you suggest that they go about that?
You know, it's an excellent question for how buffet lines are going to look. And I called a chef friend of mine in Vegas, you know, that does huge volumes. And to us, and it's not set in stone, but for the beginning, I can see it going more back to the cafeteria style, where you're pointing to what you would like and someone scoops it for you, and on goes down the line, and you're handed your plate at the end. It's less cross contamination with utensils and things like that. It's also, on our end, it'll be a little bit more cost control, because people won't be able to fill up their entire plates when all they want is a bite of something because they think it's funny.
Yeah, thank you for that. And my mother-in-law is a teacher, and she has been for 30 years. So this is a conversation that we have often, but right now it's really been about making sure that the food that these schools has is being given to the communities that really need to be fed. And we're telling people, like, let us help you deliver this food. We want to break bread with you. Like, this is yours to eat, but allow us to have like a cup of water together, something to start, and then you get to enjoy your meal as is. But another, we'll move on and get into some more Q&A. We have some more things starting to roll in through private messages, but encourage everybody to put more questions out. There we go. So in all of this, we're seeing directly from consumers, customers, guests. We're asking them what they want, and each person is actually sharing with us almost the exact same thing. They want to see health, safety, and sanitation is actually being treated appropriately and in that particular manner. They're asking for something that we do in food safety all the time. They want to directly observe that this is being done. So they want to see gloves in place. But we have to ask ourselves, at what frequency are we changing our gloves? Well, if I go touch everything around the office and then go to the kitchen to make food in the lab, I'm not being very sanitary. Now I'm causing cross-contamination. In the frequency for changing the mask, Mike, I would be curious to hear your thoughts on what you think the frequency is for gloves and mask in this situation.
Thank you, Trevor. That's a good question. The mask part is going to be different. That's going to be all new to us. So we're going to adjust on that. But I could tell you, gloves, very simple. Anytime you touch your face, touch any type of box or anything, you go through your gloves. You clean it up. If you're working with vegetables, you get done with that and you go onto a meat source, take off your gloves and change them. So we would be changing gloves quite frequently.
Thanks for that. Now, Mike, what other resources do you seek for rebooting, reopening through this time?
Well, at this time, it's been great to get back in contact with Walt. I think that's going to be a wonderful source. I work with a very talented team at NCAR, everyone from our general manager down to all chefs in all 3 locations. We have a very tight team. We have a lot of connections with hospitality. So I will be reaching out to Walt a little bit more. I'm sure my team will be reaching out to their sources, and our sales reps will be well included. So that's what we're going to go on.
Excellent. And Walt's ears were ringing, so he actually has a really great question for us in the chat window. How is your training of staffs in rebuilding guest confidence, like role-playing or other training methods, excuse me?
Well, we're going to have to come in. We're going to have to get some guidelines. We're going to have staff meetings before we get started. The fortunate thing about NCAR is we're fortunate enough to have a soft opening. We can go in slowly but surely. We will be doing a digital training course with our Spanish-speaking folks. as well as everyone else in the kitchen. We do have a plan of attack for that before everybody comes back.
Mhm. So you as a consumer, when you are out and about, what do you see with your own eyes? Like, forget the media and all the other stuff. Like, what are you actually seeing when you're grabbing essentials for your family?
I'm looking, of course, for sanitation. I'm looking for cleanliness. I'm looking for staff doing proper procedures. Me being in the industry for 30 plus years, I can see when I go to a restaurant if they're practicing good protocol. So I'm looking at cleanliness, number one. When I come in, do I sit at a table? Is my table clean? Or does the wait staff have to come over and clean it for me? I'm looking at everything, even walking into a restroom. So those things are very important when I go out.
Excellent. Are you a glove and mask wearer?
Well, I'm old school. The last several years, I, of course, use gloves. It's mandatory, so I keep up with all those regulations. But there are times where I still go barehanded, of course. Like I said, I've been in this industry a minute, so uh, uh,
Oh no, I think we lost connection. We'll give it a second. I think this is what we were expecting to have happen through any Zoom call, but that's okay. Pierce, I'm gonna give it back to you now. Um, I'm curious to hear how you could, or maybe what you're looking into for the ordering process. Like, is it going to stay all social media, or if you're going to keep your side project on and take orders in an electronic way other than social media?
For as far as the side project goes, it's definitely going to adapt quickly, I would say. We've got a lot of feedback from friends, family, and just people that we've met along the way. And what a lot of people want to see are pop-up dinners. They would like to, when they're allowed, what the regulations say, get together for a family-style meal with some chefs. So maybe myself, Chef Andrew, who's been with me from the beginning, and maybe we team up with another local chef and do a meal and pair with a charity, whether it's a nonprofit or whether it's for something good. It gives people a chance to get out and meet people. I echo what Michael was starting to say, but the other thing for me is when we do get back into this, we haven't seen each other in 100 days. We haven't seen these guests. People want to come out. For us in the hospitality industry, they have money to spend. They're out for a reason, whether it's a good reason, a bad reason, vacation, business. We need to make sure we're taking care of these individuals when they come out. And even if it's in a new way, we still have to be thoughtful in our approach, even with the precautions we need to take as employees.
Absolutely. And Walt's been giving me some updates as far as the Denver Post, and I have a question for you on this. I definitely have my own thoughts, but because of the amount of operations that are closing, some have been around for over 30 years, what do you think we could do to help those operators? Like, truly give them some support of some kind?
Well, I think, from friends in the industry that I've talked about, a few of these restaurants that hit the Denver Post were already in the works to close. It just got accelerated by a few months. Other restaurants that are closing, it's a shame. There's always going to be a few good restaurants that we lose with the casualty of some not so good restaurants that probably should have closed. And that's just speaking honest. I think that a lot of restaurants have had success with the carry-out cocktails, the to-go menus, and for me, how we got started, it's as simple as someone, tagging us or liking us on Instagram. So if you see something that you like and it's on social media, just hit the heart, and so all your friends see it. And that's how the word is going to spread, I think, on a lot of these places. And that's how we can do our part. It takes 1 second of your time, but 100 other people see it. And if they get one meal out of it, that's could be an hour that they're paying one of their cooks or one of their servers.
Hmm. I like how you had the thought and the idea to get together with your team and sit down with them and see them and get together. It's funny you say that because there's actually a chef in Las Vegas who has a farm in Pahrump, and we've been talking about that. I told him, let me know when you want to put it on. I'll take care of all the meat that we need. There's actually a small farmer who has some really good quail out in Pahrump. But to stay on topic, um, how are the laws of the kitchen evolving from Andrew Carmelini and it was Cafe Boulud that those were written for originally, but it was to show up work on time, which meant being early. And and we had our first attendee on early with us today, and I was like, "Nah, you're on time. This is great." But how do you see the laws of the kitchen evolving for us?
That was Amy, right? So thanks, Amy.
Mm-hmm.
It was good to see you. I see the laws of the kitchen evolving of instead of taking, for us, as much as we can, instead of being the kitchen, the front of the house, the stewarding department, we're going to be even more of an operations team. If we have less people and you see someone struggling and you're in a good spot, jump on the dish machine, grab a broom, and vice versa. If they run you a cutting board or whatever the case may be, I see it as one big team and less of individual departments. And I really hope that the term of it's not really my job or else I would really goes away, because I think a lot of those types of mentalities need to be weeded out. And as we reopen, it's our job to reestablish the culture of the kitchen. And if that's what we want, that's what we're going to start to enforce, just teamwork.
I like that a lot, and I'd be curious to hear what Mike has to say with that when he joins us back on. But we got another question. This one's excellent. What's been good, or what's been learned, good and bad, from the states that have already opened up, especially those states that are almost at full capacity?
As far as my world goes in the hotels, from what I've heard, is that where you think we're going with this question?
I think that we should visit for the hotels first and
Okay.
foremost, and then we can touch base as far as some of the smaller restaurants or cafes.
So what we've seen, and obviously we get recaps from other hotels, is a lot of hotels are bouncing back, and when they're starting at lower occupancies, they're really getting bombarded with people. Because like I said earlier, people are coming to have fun, they have money, they're ready to spend and enjoy their family. So a 100-room hotel at 10% occupancy is closer to 300 people at this point if needed, because everyone is at least 4 to a room. Mm-hmm. And what we're finding out with hotels is we need to bring the staff back. We need to be ready to take care of these people, especially with the resort properties we've seen. I know Lake Tahoe just opened up, and they did an excellent job with things by being ready and having extra staff available and on hand to take care of the guests.
Mm-hmm. And I know that this is specifically for F&B and the hospitality world, but I have to give compliments to my wife and what she's doing for Victoria's Secret and how well they've handled it. You would think that somebody from the restaurant world went in to work for them and was like, this is how we're going to do it. Front of the house, back of the house, we all communicate, and we're going to train, and then we're going to open. And it's going to be wild, but we'll do it together. So compliments there. But Mike, since you're back on with us, I'd love to hear your take on the laws of the kitchen and the evolution there.
Well, it's going to change a lot. Our team has really reinvented the wheel on everything we're doing compared to what we've done in the past. So there's going to be some changes. When you say the law of the kitchen, I mean, people are going to have to really focus on more sanitation. We have very clean establishments, but people are going to really have to focus more on what the customer sees. They're going to have to be wearing their masks the whole time, their gloves the whole time. They'll be more visible sanitation buckets about. So I don't see really a whole lot with the way we do things, our production wise, we're going to have our stations and everything. But I think sanitation is really going to have to be looked at very hard in our kitchen.
That's exciting for us in the food safety world because we're excited, but it's very unfortunate that it took a pandemic for some operators to get there. Not to imply that it took you to get there, Mike. I was just from some of the operations that we go in, and a lot of times people say, "Oh my gosh, we're so sorry that things are like this," and I'm like, "You're fine. We've seen some pretty scary stuff, but you are fine." And when we walk into a business, it's not about pointing out what is right or wrong. It's what is valid and invalid. The beautiful thing about data, what is invalid tells us what we could do differently to fine tune our processes. But the last question before we start passing the floor to Walt for that update is how are you looking at your HVAC system? And I imagine that these military buildings are very much like the ones that my brother helps build, but how is your HVAC system looked at through this process?
We've got into that a little bit. There is being work done with our maintenance department right now. We haven't gotten a whole lot of information like what is exactly what's going on, but we're focusing on some UV lights, maybe some different air filter systems. But that is something that has been in the works with our test team. So I'm sure we'll be getting more information as time goes by.
Great. And when you get new UV lights, can we put some of them in a cooler and make it into a curing chamber of some sort?
That's anything's possible. Anything's possible. We might be able to get that done for you.
I'm excited. I'll bring the meat.
All right.
All right. Well, jump in and give us some updates. I think you have some electric news for us. I'm thrilled for it.
Is my mic working? Good. Okay. Hi, everybody. Great job, Pierson. Great job, Mike. Great job interacting with everybody with all your questions and thoughts. Good stuff all the way around. Hey, I wanted just a couple of minutes on here just to share some news that I gathered this morning. In the Wall Street Journal, there was an article called "How Exactly Do You Catch COVID-19? There's a Growing Consensus" is the name of the article. It's written by three authors, and it was published today in the Wall Street Journal. So surface contaminations and fleeting encounters in their article say is a less of a worry than close-up person-to-person interactions for extended periods. Emerging scientific findings are helping businesses and government devices reopening strategically that limit the corona spread. So it's a 4-page typical Wall Street Journal. It's an in-depth article with loads of stuff in it. So they're saying that surface contamination is still a factor, and interaction, which social distancing corrects, helps reduce that. But one of the findings in here is that aerosol droplet, so the finest amount of infected air can be transmitted very successfully from person to person, which is a new finding. So it's not only the surfaces, but it's also what Mike just mentioned a minute ago about improving air quality and air movement, which is what Trevor was mentioning about HVAC and HVAC-related systems, and the social distancing piece. So it's kind of like reaffirming some of the things that we already knew, but validating that from a global perspective, whether it's China, whether it's Italy or Norway or US or South America. We're learning a lot in how that gets transmitted from person to person. And then later on in the day, I got an e-magazine from Food Safety Strategies. I know that sounds really exciting reading, right? Well, they make
I'm excited.
They make therapists for people like me that read that kind of stuff, and Trevor that would read that kind of stuff. But the coolest thing in there that just lit me up like a candle was that there is a company called Magnolia Bakery in New York City that has installed a human safe FAR, FAR-UVC light system to provide continuous in-store sanitation. The name of the company that did this is out of Melbourne, Florida. It's HELTHE, Health's Cleanse Series. We're going to make sure this link gets included in what gets uploaded. I sent Trevor one of the slides on how safety and sanitation is actually managed this way, but it's a 24-hour round-the-clock continuous sanitation series of products that utilize UVA, UVC, and human-safe FAR UVC light to inactivate viruses and bacteria on surfaces and in the air. I was amazed at this. I know we see articles all the time that say NUV, and we're looking into UV. Well, I said the same thing too. But this article, and when you look at their website, there's two scientists that helped develop this. One was with NASA, and they helped the astronauts with their air quality in the space lab. And this other fellow doctor was from Harvard Medical School, and they developed these systems and these lighting systems that actually clean the air and the surfaces continually 24 hours a day in every operation using a variety of light. Okay, so the three areas was a cleanse portal, is a freestanding walk-through arch that uses this human safe FAR UVC. There's a cleanse downlight, which is a ceiling light that incorporates the same technology to inactivate bacteria and viruses. And then there's a third one that's called Cleanse Air Sanitizing Trofer. Now, I may not be pronouncing that correctly, which circulates air through a HEPA carbon air filter and exposes it to UVA and UVC light capable of eliminating 99.99% of airborne pathogens in seconds. So Magnolia Bakery is installing these things right now. It's an iconic global brand, and they are setting a standard for restaurants to continue to operate in a safe manner and serve their communities in the midst of our crisis. So I reached out when I read this about 3 hours ago. I called Magnolia Bakery. They didn't answer. They must be busy installing. And I called this company, Health's Cleanse Series, and I invited them to the webinar to see if they could come in and just give it a little more insight on what they're doing. Now, I know—
We actually have some insight.
Go ahead.
Well, Sylvia, thank you for that. Sylvia was saying that you still need Proctor protective equipment for UVC lights, and Dr. Brenner from Columbia University has a wealth of information out there to go watch, read. Dr. Brenner is an incredible scientist at Columbia University. I have a lot of interest in Columbia University because that's where I go to see my neurologist. But
we're going to include
funny
that
thing,
in the upload that we put up on the web, right?
Yep, absolutely. It will be in the
Okay,
upload,
good.
the updates. But to get to the point, we actually use UV light in many different places. And that is totally true that you still need protection. So we need to discourage people from getting chemicals and putting Lysol on porous foods. But proper GMP practices like proper hand washing and apparel and things will mitigate those risks tremendously. And then things like UV lights, maybe when we're not present in the operation, but there's more to it. We won't go too much in depth, but possibly we go down that rabbit hole next time. And that's where my question to Mike was about making a curing room, because we've done that in multiple operations as well. But on that particular note, the perspective of this is we just want everybody to realize that we're doing this to generate those resources or put things together. And we have the email coming out with all the links that will take you there. Control Point has a library that it's continuously developing and putting things on, but don't wait for the next session. put your questions forward because we want to answer them. We want to look into it. We want to be helpful for the entire industry.
Trevor, there was one other note or resource in there from dataessentials.com. You might want to talk about that for a second.
So on that Data Essentials, we actually covered a lot of Data Essentials last time, but people are generating their own data in an operation, and they could record it. They can get it interpreted, and then they can present it to the guests in a different way that shows them how they are safe and everything is sanitary in the operation. So I think there's multiple ways. There's also a comment about getting people to come back, and we need to regain their confidence, reboot their confidence. We have to re-earn it. The only place I won't be using is in training. If it was retraining, then it wasn't done properly the first time. That's my thought on it. So we do continued education. Now, the takeaways for this are, when you get stuck, go back to your beginnings. Think of it like boot camp. You always go back to the beginnings. And then what the guests are requesting. They want to see the direct observation of these things, but we can come up with different ways to put it out there. Pierson was talking about social media is a great way to share these things. Very positive too. The culture that we have to develop in our organizations, and the culture and the morale will be very important. So when the adjustments come, it's not oh my gosh, we're freaking on. Walt's got the best line for that. What is that, Walt? When our hair's on fire?
Pelo a fuego.
There we go. And then if you were around for our last meeting, we had something about gazing together. We need to go and be looking at these things together. We can all have different, we can all pick up colors differently or see things differently in a different perspective, but we should be sharing what we are seeing out of this. And we're definitely going to cut it very soon, but stay on the line if you want to open up the conversation and go deeper into these rabbit holes. Huge thanks to Michael Briski, Pierson Shields, Chef Greg Matchett, Walt Holly, Rebecca Wiedemir. She has been a huge asset for us and kept us together and organized. Can you imagine all of us standing around talking about how we install light bulbs like 20 years ago or the last time at a different place? So she keeps us on point. Now, stick around if you so like, but now we've reached that 2 p.m. mark. It's actually, 2 p.m. in Vegas, 3:01 for everyone in Colorado. So what else do you have? There's no one's holding you to it, but
the only,
we're here.
one of the cliches that we use over here pretty often is when we look at the workload that we have and we look at the long range that we have to get to the success. One of the posters that we have in our work area is the only place that success comes before work is in the dictionary. So we know that we've got to work a lot of workload ahead of us. We know that with focus and team, we can accomplish that. And the end goal of that is just success for a repeat customer and a healthy environment to work in, and the ability to come back and be proud of our industry and how we're getting it to grow back to where it was.
Yeah, very well said. And what we're doing is encouraging everybody to operate within what they have to do, but not do things that don't make sense for their operation. We appreciate the guidance, but guidance is guidance. If it's a mandate, executive order, or a statute, that's a requirement. So let's look at each of our operations together and let's ask people, take a look at this. Give me your thoughts. Fresh set of eyes. Very helpful. Food safety is incredibly valuable for us. And we simply use a management system, apply it to food, and then we obtain quality faster and we maintain quality longer. We really aren't in this alone. We are in this together. So thank you all for joining us, and put in your requests for what you want to see next, what you want to hear next. It's only a matter of time before we're all in Denver together, breaking bread and, just having a great old time. But don't wait. You all can always come to Vegas. It's nice and pretty right now.
I want to thank everybody for being on the call, taking the time, learning from each other, spending time hearing what some of the other operators are doing and reading the chat that everybody's bringing forward. We're an innovative group of people, and we're survivors. So it's great to see everybody on task and willing to breathe life back into our industry. So thank you all very, very much. And we look forward to seeing you in the dining rooms in and around Denver and in and around Colorado, and maybe even over in Vegas.
Absolutely.
Paul just posted the question about the other videos. We'll be sending out the links to all the videos and also a link to everybody who's participated in all the videos, even if they, weren't featured in a specific webinar, and their contact information and the websites that they reference. So all that will be in the recap for everybody.
Yes, and we'll have the slides up on Control Point's website and in our library, and we can also post the videos there as well. But if you are looking for something and you can't find it, just ask. We're here for the long haul. I see this like a long distance race. I'm not going to go very far alone, but together I can go incredibly far. And even on the uphills, they can be hard, but the downhills can be just as hard. So we got to keep high knees and a clear mind and a positive attitude. So ciao for now. Thank you all. This has been wonderful, and we'll see everyone soon.
Bye.
Bye.
All right.
Hey.
One more chat. Oh, we got thank yous. Yes. Huge thank yous. This was wonderful. Walt, what you sent me in the email was just a link to their website. I did try to extract some photos because they were pretty neat, but it just saved as a HTML situation. So you might have to resend that to me.
Let me see if I can do that.
And then what time is dinner? I want to eat these artichokes.
They just look so good.
They do look great.
Did you tag Jeff to see if he knew the people at Magnolia?
No, I didn't. But I don't, but I do have chefs in New York City who could probably tell me.
There is a new technology different than, I don't know that lady that put the link up there that you need PPE. On 2 levels, there are 2 levels that do require PPE, but this new thing that they're talking about in their website and in the science that these guys developed, that it will work and be in regular households and regular commercial establishments, and they're going to integrate the lighting so that the lighting will purify and clean while there's people around in regular settings.
Yeah, I meant to touch base on this before Dr. Brenner, but there's a juice company in San Diego that does not do high pressure pasteurization, and they only use black lights or UV lights in a closed loop system.
See, I don't know the technology. I just know what I read and thought that just.
Well, think of that on raw juice, and therefore it doesn't have to do high pressure pasteurization. So you get a product with more nutrients. You get a product that has more flavor.
It was, yeah, you're right. You're right. I'm trying to remember where I